All right, so this next video, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of Ozone and how to use it if you look to get it. I know it's on sale right now, so you might want to look into that if it's something you can afford. But I'll give you a quick tour of it. I have Ozone Advanced, so when I go to my iZotope category, I see Ozone 8, and then I see all the individual elements that are in Ozone 8. So Ozone 8, the standard version, comes with this version that has everything built into it. So I have all these different tools. I can add more, and we'll explore those here in a second. Whereas with the advanced version, you also have the ability to go in and maybe grab just that stereo imager. So maybe I just want to use other tools, but I like the stereo width that I can adjust with Ozone. I can use this imager tool just as a standalone plugin itself. So that's one of the functions that Ozone Advanced has. I'm just going to use the regular Ozone version for this. So I'm going to open up Ozone, just the regular Ozone 8. And by default, it has an EQ, dynamics, and maximizer on with 2 dB set on there. So it's automatically just going to make it a little bit louder. So if I play it, you can hear it get a little louder because of all that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all that stuff off, and I can grab hit the plus button, and I don't have to hit the plus button, but just hit one of these items, and it puts it in the order of what might be an ideal or recommended signal flow order. But you don't have to go by this means. You can set these modules up in any order that you want. So I want to grab the EQ. I can click on that and unbypass that plugin. And so now I have that EQ. It looks like to be a 4-band. There's other bands like 2 I can add on there. I'm turning off band 2, 4, 6, and 8. So it's 8 bands, but it just shows me 4. There's analog mode and digital mode, which is that linear phase mode. But I'm just going to go back to analog and just use the analog function. Other than that, it functions kind of the same. The one thing you want to notice, though, is that the gain doesn't go higher than 5.4 dB. I can cut more than that, but I can't boost more than 5.4. So it's not as visually equivalent as like a regular EQ is. Bringing it all the way up is only a 5.4 boost, whereas in other EQs it might be a 15, even 30 dB boost. So keep that in mind when you're dialing in an EQ. So I can just play this and dial in whatever EQ I want. I couldn't wait to crawl under your skin. Change this to a parametric EQ. I couldn't wait to crawl under your skin. This parasite I've been. And you can bypass the individual modules. So I don't have to bypass the whole plugin, but I can hear that EQ in and out. That seems about right. Now this is stereo. You can do mid-side, so you can EQ the mid and the side differently. You can also go to left-right, so you can EQ the left and right differently, or back to that stereo mode, which is what I have here. But you can use all that together if you want. So anyway, the next thing I want to add, let's see what it recommends. There's a vintage EQ, vintage tape, exciter, which adds harmonic stuff. We'll look into that later. Maybe I just want to jump into the dynamics. So I'm going to click on dynamics. And this is a multi-band dynamic. So one of the differences is this when I click dynamics, this is a 4-band dynamics. If I click on the vintage dynamic, vintage compressor, it's going to be just a single stereo compressor. And I click over here, this brings up presets. So if I want one of these presets, I can use one of those. So maybe I want to use a solid state, which is probably close to what an SSL would sound like. And you can even dial in the detection filter, which is nice. There's auto gain there. I'm going to turn that off and just kind of boost it like 3 dB or so, 2.5. And hear it in and out. makes it a lot more in your face, which is fine. Then after that, I can add the multi-band compressor. So if I want to like bring up the low end, just like the other compressors, I can solo that, and hear just the low end. Bring down the threshold. I can bring down the threshold here. Adjust the output. And I can unsolo that, and I can bring it in and out with this I button here. That's nice. It makes a nice low end. So I'm gonna maybe dial in the low mids, so I can duck that down a little bit. Now I have to make sure I click inside that band so I can bring the controls up. Unsolo that, and I'll keep that compression, but I won't give any boost, so I'll just kind of bring that mid stuff down when it's a little bit heavier. Let's hear how that sounds together. That sounds good. Now let me jump to the high frequencies, solo that. And boost that like 3 dB-ish. Now let's bring the whole thing in and out to hear how that dynamic's affecting it. Alright, sounds pretty good. Next time, the only other thing I'm going to really add is the limiter and the imager. So the imager allows me to adjust the stereo width, and we'll talk about that here very, very soon. But with low frequency stuff, I want to mono that. So I'm soloing that band. I'm going to take that low frequency band and bring it all the way down so that if I look at it on the scope here with it soloed, you'll see that low frequency, it's dead in the center. And maybe I want to solo the high frequency stuff and add some width to that. I can widen that a little bit. And then maybe the mid stuff, low mid stuff, let's solo that band. And maybe narrow it a little bit. And then keep the sort of the high frequencies. Maybe we'll widen it just a touch. And so let's hear that in and out. It's subtle, but it makes a sort of a nice stereo, kind of separates things out a little bit. The last one I'll add is the maximizer, which is the digital limiter. So this is similar to the other digital limiters. I like this IRC4, the modern setting on there. Now, one nice thing is that I can set my ceiling down to -1 like I would, but one of the cool things is I can click this True Peak button, and with that lit up, it'll automatically adjust that so it keeps the True Peak at -1, regardless of where the threshold is. So it makes constant adjustments. And I can bring my threshold down. And I can see it on the meter where make sure it's not hitting the limiter when the guitars are playing or anything like that. So it's just hitting on some kick and snares. Now, one other cool feature that it has is it has this learn threshold. So I can set a target. So I may want it to hit -12. I can just sort of play through the song. When I click this learn button, it's going to automatically sort of constantly adjust that threshold. So my LUFS winds up being at -12, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to click on that and then just hit play. So you can see that adjusting there.
Starlight, star bright, your mind tonight. Don't tell a soul.
That's good enough. So it brought that, I'm going to turn that off. So it brought the threshold down minus 3.7, and it constantly adjusts that ceiling automatically so the true peak stays at -1, which is pretty neat. So that's a lot of neat settings on here. I'm going to go down here and I want to turn on my dither. So I click on dither and I'm going to power on with that power button. It's by default setting the bit depth to 16, dither amount medium, noise shaping to high, and you can kind of adjust that however you want, but make sure you turn that on if you're going to be using this. If you're going to export it at 16-bit, you're going to keep that. And we'll explore some of these other features a little bit later on, but that's just kind of Ozone in a nutshell, and we'll dive in deeper a little bit later.